Hello, welcome to GTech Techno Solution Private Limited. Today we are going to discuss about the characteristics and disorders that can occur in human heart. So these are the topics that we are going to cover in this session. We are going to study about the heart valves, the heart skeleton, and the sounds that is produced in your heart, followed by the cardiac cycle. After which we will be discussing about the regulation of the heart and the heart disorders such as your heart homeostasis, effects of aging on the heart, and the disorders of circulatory system. First, let us see the heart valves. The heart valves include the atrioventricular, the semilunar valves. The atrioventricular valves include the tricuspid and the bicuspid or the mitral valve. So this is your tricuspid valve and this is your bicuspid or mitral valve. And the semilunar valves include the pulmonary and the aortic valve. So here you can see the pulmonary valve and this is your aortic valve. So these are the semilunar valves. And they prevent the blood from flowing back. They prevent the blood from flowing back. So this is how the valves are present in a human heart. Here you can clearly see the valves that are present in a human heart. The aortic valve, the pulmonary valve, the mitral valve or the bicuspid valve and the tricuspid valve. So this is how the valves are present. So this is the cross-sectional view of the valves. If you see over here, your tricuspid valve is the valve that connects the right atrium with the right ventricle, whereas the mitral valve or the bicuspid valve connects the left atrium with the left ventricle. Your pulmonary valve pumps the impure blood from the right ventricle into the pulmonary veins, which leads to the lungs. And the aortic valve pumps the blood from the left ventricle into the aorta. Next we are going to see the heart skeleton. Your heart skeleton consists of a plate of fibrous connective tissues between the atria and the ventricles. So these plate of fibrous connective tissues can be found around the valves as fibrous rings to support the movement produced by the heart, and it serves as the electrical insulation between the atria and the ventricles. It provides the site for the muscle attachment. So here you can clearly see the fibrous rings around the valves. So here, this is your pulmonary semilunar valve, your bicuspid and tricuspid valve, and this is your aortic semilunar valve. The cardiac muscles of the right ventricle and the left ventricle can be seen in this picture. So this is how the heart is being supported with the fibrous rings. Next we are going to discuss about the heart sounds. The first heart sound is lub, and that sound occurs due to the atrioventricular valves and surrounding fluid vibrations as valves close at the beginning of the ventricular systole. So during the systole, the atrioventricular valves close, and that sound is known as the lub. And the second heart sound is the dub sound, and results of this from the closure of the aortic and the pulmonary semilunar valves at the beginning of the ventricular diastole, and it lasts longer. So your dub sound occurs due to the closing of the valves at the beginning, and your dub sound occurs due to the closure of the aortic valves. The third sound that occurs occasionally is caused by the turbulent blood flow into the ventricles, and it is detected near the end of the first 1/3 of the diastole. So these are the sounds that your heart produces, either by the aortic valve or the pulmonary valve or the tricuspid or the bicuspid valve. Next we are going to study about the cardiac cycle. The heart is a two pump that works together with the right and the left half. The repetitive contraction. Your contraction is the systolic movement and it is known as systole. And the relaxation of the heart is known as diastole. The blood moves through the circulatory system from the areas of higher to lower pressure. So this is the principle in which the blood moves inside the heart. The contraction of heart produces the pressure. So initially, when the blood enters from the pulmonary vein into the left atrium, the bicuspid valve closes, and the bicuspid valve will lead the blood into the left ventricle, which passes through the aortic valve into the aorta. So this process of contraction of the heart of the atrium is known as the systole. And the relaxation of the heart is known as diastole. So this is your cardiac cycle. So initially the impure blood enters through your superior and inferior vena cava into the right atrium. It enters through the venous, and the venous flow arrives in the right ventricle through the tricuspid valve. And the venous blood is sent to the lung via the pulmonary artery, and after oxygenation in the lung, the blood enters the left atrium through the bicuspid valve or the mitral valve. It enters the left ventricle. And from the left ventricle, the blood enters into the aorta through the aortic valve, and further the pure blood is sent to the various parts of the body. So this cycle goes on in your heart, and that is known as your cardiac cycle. Next, we are going to study about the regulation of the heart. There are two types of regulation, which includes the intrinsic regulation and the extrinsic regulation. It results from a normal functional characteristics, not on neural or hormonal regulation. And this is determined by the Starling's law of heart. In your extrinsic regulation, it involves neural or hormonal control. Your regulation is also controlled by the parasympathetic stimulation, which is supplied by the vagus nerve and decreases the heart rate and the acetylcholine that is being secreted. So this stimulation is known as the parasympathetic stimulation. That is the stimulation which involves the atriums. Your sympathetic stimulation is supplied by the cardiac nerves, and it increases the heart rate, and force of contraction is determined by the epinephrine, and non-epinephrine is released. So the force of contraction is determined by the two compounds epinephrine and norepinephrine. So this is your sympathetic stimulation. Next, we are going to study about the heart homeostasis. The baroreceptors monitors the blood pressure, and hence the effect of the blood pressure can be determined to determine the functioning of the heart in a proper manner. The effect of pH, carbon dioxide and oxygen can be determined by the chemoreceptors monitor, which determines the effect of the pH, carbon dioxide and oxygen. The effect of the extracircular ion concentration is determined by the increase or decrease in the extracellular potassium ions, which decreases the heart rate. The effect of body temperature with the heart is that the heart rate increases when the body temperature increases. So the heart rate decreases when the body temperature decreases. So this is the relation between the body temperature and the heart rate. So these are the effects of blood pressure, pH, carbon dioxide, oxygen, and extracellular ion concentration and the body temperature. Next we are going to see the effects of aging on the heart. As a person grows old, there will be gradual changes in the heart function, which includes the minor under resting condition and more significant during exercise. Here you can see the hypertrophy of the left ventricle. So the size of the left ventricle is changed. The heart rate decreases, and this leads for the tendency for the valves to function abnormally and with the nios to occur. So this leads to the abnormal functioning of the valves, and the pumping of the blood in heart is improper. It requires increased oxygen consumption that is required to pump the same amount of blood. So these are the effects of the heart on aging. Next we are going to see the disorders that can occur in a circulatory system. If a person has lack of iron in the blood, that is low red blood cells count, then he is subjected to anemia. If a person has white blood cells which proliferate widely, causing anemia, then it is known as leukemia. Hemophilia is commonly known as the bleeder's disease. It occurs due to the lack of fibrinogen in thrombocytes. Next we have the heart murmur, which is commonly known as abnormal heartbeat, and it is caused by valve problems. So if the valve is subjected to some problem, it leads to the heart murmur. If the blood vessels around the heart become blocked with plaque, which is deposited fat, then it is known as myocardial infarction, which has the common term as heart attack. So these are the common disorders a person can face regarding the circulatory system. In a normal human's blood composition, he should have plasma as 55%. The red blood cells must be less than 1%, and the white blood cells and the platelets must be less than 1%. So this gives the composition of the blood for a human. Thank you so much for joining GTech. Hope you would have studied about the characteristics and disorders that can happen in a human heart. Thank you.